We're on. Let's go. What's up, everybody? My name is Michael Sullivan. This is the Crack House Podcast. Joining me tonight, my buddy, my partner in crime, Chris Muscolino. What's up, Muskie? What's
Big
going
Mike,
on?
Michael Sullivan. Thank you so much for having me on. Welcome, everybody. We got a special guest tonight.
Yes,
Old buddy of mine from St. John's University, track and field alumni, star, stunt double, actor. Good buddy of mine, fraternity brother of mine, George Schroeder. So, me and Mike. How you doing, George?
It's great to be with you guys, man. I can't believe I haven't seen you in like 25 years. It still look the same.
Yeah, man. So for the audience out there, George was a track and field athlete at St. John's University. We went to St. John's at the same time. All those who are listening out there from St. John's, George was a phenomenal track athlete. It was like a real pain in the ass to get athletes to join fraternities and vice versa. But George happened to pledge my fraternity, and we lost touch for many, many years. You know, like George said, it's been about 20, 25 years since I, spoke to him. We found each other on Facebook, and lo and behold, I found George had a whole nother career other than his academic career. And I saw that he was an actor. He's been on many things. We'll get into it in a couple minutes. Mike's got a couple quick questions for you. Mike's a childhood buddy of mine, George, just so you know, from Astoria.
Okay.
But, I thought you'd be perfect for the show. We're a New York-centric show. We talk about politics, sports, pop culture. And when I came across your IMBD, I figured you'd be a perfect guest, being the fact that we have a large St. John's audience.
That's
so,
awesome.
Mike, kick it off, man. I know you got some questions for him.
All right, George. Thanks for being on the show. Now, George is an actor and a stuntman, right?
You could just call a stunt actor, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, George has been on shows like The Deuce, John Wick 3, Blue Bloods, Ray Donovan, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, John Wick, the original one, Run All Night. You worked with Liam Neeson there, huh? That's right. When you worked, I knew the technical advisor on The Deuce.
That's an interesting show. I was doing the night of driving for one of the main characters. So they just had me nonchalantly drive this taxi cab in front of somebody's house, and quick dialogue between the girl who's doing a line of blow, and I take her off to a hotel, and that was it.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, but the guy Bobby Naughty, he was a detective in the Bronx in the 4-4 where I was a cop. He wound up, I think the last couple of seasons, he was the technical advisor on the show. It was
nice.
A really great show, really authentic show. The big thing I want to know is, people always ask this, they have to ask this of you, George. How did you get involved? How did you get started in it?
Well, it was pretty simple. Like, I want to say back in 2012, seeing an article in the paper that Russell Crowe is filming the movie Noah, and he's shooting it out in Long Island, in Nassau County. And there's further in the article, it says they're looking for background people, and they wanted with runner type bodies. So I said, hey, I pull this thing out of the paper, I throw it on the side. I never give it a second thought. Long story short, or long story longer, I wind up going to this cattle call where there's a couple hundred people up in Northern Boulevard, somewhere in like Greenville area. And I get picked to be one of the background people, and there were hundreds of people that worked in background. Long story, a little bit longer. I worked for 23 days on this movie as one of the peons that are going to drown that day at the end of the world. And I got my, what you call waivers to get into the Screen Actors Guild as a result of it. And then made a couple moves. And I was fortunate enough to have and pay attention to some people that knew what was going on, including a good stunt guy And within a couple of years, I wound up getting a call after doing some stunt training with some inside guys. And it's just, it's kind of like luck of the draw, maybe a little fate, destiny, right place, right time, right
yeah.
look, And my first job, I got called for to double for Bobby Cannavale on HBO's new show called Vinyl.
Okay. That was a great show. Great show, by the way. I think it's on, I'm sure you can find it on demand somewhere, Vinyl.
It is. Yeah.
Really
I still get residual checks for it.
Oh, good. Good for you. Keep them coming.
Right.
So, George, two things with that. Number one, I remember that. I live in Smithtown now. And there was an incident with Russell Crowe where he got stuck in Smithtown Bay. He almost drowned and he got saved. So I remember reading about that. That's interesting that you brought up.
Right.
And secondly, I have a cousin of mine who's kind of like got one foot in the new music business. She's got like some sort of gothic band and stuff. One of her friends that she introduced me to was the costume person for Vinyl. So I don't know if you remember who it was, but I don't know the name. But I remember my cousin had introduced me to her at one of the family parties that we had. And she basically costumed everybody in that show, which was pretty cool.
To be honest with you, when that first job, my head was like spinning, because you went from being a background person who, in a lot of instances, kind of doesn't count. You're at the bottom of the barrel, and then you come in as a contracted principal. So I was kind of in awe of everything. Some really awesome, talented people who worked on that film behind the scenes. Costuming, hair. I was wearing a wig. They were incredible people.
How's Bobby Cannavale, if you mind me asking?
He was super. I spent a lot of downtime with him on a couple of episodes, just shooting the shit. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, people keep talking about this show and it's really getting hyped up. And who knows if it was going to go any further? And it was supposed to, but working with Bobby was really cool. Real down-to-earth guy.
I remember him on Boardwalk Empire, man. He was classic on that show, man.
He's got some range, whether he's doing a stint on, Modern Family or Boardwalk. Yeah. Great stuff.
And then he was in, what was it? The last two Ant-Man movies. He's one of those guys that he pops up in something and he's usually really good in it. And then it's just on to the next thing. He's like that consummate working actor. Yeah. And you can't almost pigeonhole him as a character actor.
All over the place.
He's all over the place. He could be the leading man. He could be, he was great in the movie The Station Agent.
Sure.
Real with Pete Dinklage, your buddy, Chris. You love Pete Dinklage. You love
That's Mike's buddy.
I mean, I met him, but it was
So Mike ran into him, George. We had a couple episodes ago where Mike and I were talking about famous people that we've run across throughout the years.
Right.
And Mike's got a picture of him and Peter Dinklage down in the Village taking a picture. And the guy looks like he wants to kill Mike because Mike's a big Irish guy. Right. And Pete, if you've read his biography, he can't stand when he gets typecast as a dwarf. So he's got this puss on as he's walking the dog and he's looking at Mike and Mike's bending down and shit. And he's looking at Mike like he wants to punch him in the face. But Mike is that was the only way to get into the picture, right. And he's walking this tremendous dog Mike was telling me about.
Yeah, the guy walks around with a Great Dane.
Yeah.
He's one of those actors. It seems like I don't want people to notice me, but notice me because I'm a little guy walking a horse in Manhattan.
I guess you didn't want to take a knee to take your picture next to him.
Yeah. It was weird because I didn't know what to do, and then he finally looked at me and said, "You have to crouch down." In a real. And the funniest thing was, my friend took the picture, and then my friend jumped in and had to do the same thing with him. But
that's funny.
But it's great. I mean, that is great that you just. Now, here's my question: they filmed Noah's Ark in Nassau County.
Suffolk County, yeah.
They have 3 spots where they did work. They used the Arboretum in Oyster Bay, where they built a whole. I wouldn't say a whole, but what looked like a whole ark. The set was huge. And I heard they were running $1 million a day, just costs for set. Wow. And they also did a whole indoor thing at one of the armories in Brooklyn. And they also shot on site in Iceland.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But what a crazy, crazy production. is insane.
Did you meet Russell Crowe, George?
I saw him from about 100 yards away.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
He's a pretty wild dude, huh?
He seems pretty interesting, to be honest with you. This, I'm quite a fan of his work. I couldn't say what he's like as a person to work with or anything like that, but he's got some great pieces out there, that's for sure.
Yeah, man. Yeah, he would have fit right in with the fraternity back in the day, huh?
I'm sure.
Now, like all the stuff you've worked on over the years, like what's probably like what are your biggest memories that stand out?
Some
of the things you've done.
Well, you're familiar with the show The Blacklist?
Yeah.
Okay. My first spot where I was speaking with dialogue was Blacklist. And I get a call. Now, I don't know if you mentioned this before. I'm teaching high school now, 25 years.
Yeah.
Right. I teach social studies. And I get a call from the stunt coordinator, great guy, Court Hessler. He says, listen, have you delivered lines before? And I'm like, yeah, sure. I'm doing it right now. I'm teaching class. We're acting the whole time. So, there's a saying they call it like you fake it till you make it, right?
Yeah.
Just act as if. So I go in there to set, and the first thing we're doing is a little rehearsal. And somebody comes over, and I forget exactly who it was, but they wind up giving me the script for what we're doing. I look at it, and it's page after page after page. I'm like, holy shit. Why there's so many pages? They didn't tell me I was doing this much. I had no idea. So I go out, I wing it, right? And I'm reading dialogue, and the scene has an FBI agent. She's tied up to a chair, and I'm one of the bad guys. And we roll through this whole scene, and it's quiet. Director comes over and he says, listen, I want you try this and try that, do this a little bit differently, pause here, say something like this. All right, no. And I'm just thinking in my head, I'm shitting myself, right? I'm not outward, I'm cool as a cucumber, but inside I'm like, oh man, thank God I don't have to do this for a living. So go through it again, and it's really quiet when they say cut on rehearsal. And then from the back somewhere you hear, wait, that's in my line. Out from the bathroom comes this Italian guy who was supposed to be doing the lines. It was like one of the day player, which is like a big role.
Yeah.
It wasn't even for me. Somebody screwed up and gave me the shit. Everybody starts laughing because it was so funny. And I'm like, I'm off the hook, and that's good. And one of the stunt guys comes over, he's like, holy shit, man, you must have been going crazy in your head there. He says, yeah, but fuck it. I'll go back to work tomorrow, Says, that was great. Great way to handle it. You look like a pro. Okay, as long as you think so.
Now, like what you teaching, is your school like very they give you a lot of leeway if something comes up, or
to be honest with you, you take a day here, you take a day there. You're afforded like, what do we get, 10 or 12 days a year. Very often I'm working a job, it might be at night or it's outside of the school hours.
Yeah,
overnights. Like the last few times I've worked on Evil was all overnights or starting at 3 p.m. So that's perfect. Beautiful.
Now, when you're filming Evil, because we were talking about this before we started recording, the house they use in Evil is right around the corner from where me and Chris grew up. Are you always over there, or like in mainly in Astoria, or?
No, that's the home. There's quite a bit that's over there. That's the home of the main character. Geez, I'm going to forget her name now. But that's her, the what do we want to call it? The investigator's home.
Yeah.
They film quite often there. And the last time I worked with them, we didn't even have to go there. It was like around the corner from me, just like 20 minutes up the road. So it was like a home run.
And now you also worked on Blue Bloods a lot too, right?
Blue Bloods a handful of times, yeah.
And they always film that. Like I live in where I live in Queens, in Forest Hills, they film that all the time.
Yeah.
I think Wahlberg's house is one of the houses in my neighborhood, and they're always there when I start.
One of the last things I did there was, we didn't work there. We worked in, I guess it's Harlem, I guess, maybe Spanish Harlem. We had a great foot chase. myself and my other bad guy partner, we just robbed the pawn shop. We come booking out of the place there. I've got my gun in a bag, and he's got his gun in a bag of jewelry, running down the block, getting chased through an alleyway, jumping the fence, running through a building, come out of the building, and then we're in a dead end, and it's all boom, 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 big gunfight. And I wind up taking one in the shoulder, and that was it. That was one of the last times I worked there, but that's a great show, great people to work with there.
How about Gotham? How about Gotham, George? I see that you did that as well.
Yeah, Gotham, the same coordinator who hired me for Evil, Norm Douglas, brought me into Gotham way back. I actually worked on Gotham as a background person before being a stunt. My daughter and I, my youngest daughter, we did an episode. And just like a month later, I get a call from the coordinator to come in and do a shot. It's me and a couple other guys fight at night in a pool hall, and and that was history. But a good relationship with the stunt coordinator. The Gotham was always cool, and Gotham pays some great residuals.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's well. Is it already in? It's already in like reruns somewhere. I know it went off I remember went off and everything. I didn't know it was already.
Yeah, not only that, but it's also streamed and whatnot.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh,
but the best by far is in residuals is the show we were just talking about, Blue Bloods.
Yeah. Oh, that's on that show's on everywhere, man.
Right. Over and over again.
That's like it's like the new Law and Order.
Right.
It's on a bunch of different channels all day long.
Yeah, it's insane how much it's on.
Yeah, people love that show.
George, have you been on Law and Order or no?
I never as a stunt person. I've only worked Law and Order once as background, and this was probably going back to 2013, 2014.
There's a guy I used to work with. His father was on a couple of episodes. A guy by the name of Joe Whistler, who I'm going to try to get on the show in the next couple of weeks. I'm going to reach out to his son. It's just funny. A lot of these shows that you do, it's like I've come across people like in my walk of life that either have worked on the show. Yeah. There's another guy I'm working. I told you, off air, Steve Sherpa, which is Bobby Bacala. He follows me on Twitter, and I see that he's a big, he's got obviously a big IMBD, and I see that he, did Blue Bloods. I know you mentioned that you didn't come across him, but do you know who I'm talking about? As far as, can you put the face to the name?
For Sherpa?
Yeah, Sherpa, right?
Yes.
Gotcha. Yeah, so there's a whole bunch of those guys that, however I come across them, guys I worked with, in my different jobs, on social media and stuff. It's just weird, how, you come across certain people. Yeah.
Small world.
Me and Mike are going to talk at some point, if we have enough time later on, about a punk rock band, the Ramones, that we used to play during college and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I was always curious. You alluded to it in the beginning of the episode, but what happened with vinyl? Because I love that show. I'm a big music guy. For those that remember, right? And know me from St. John's. I was a DJ back then. I'm a DJ now. That's one of my jobs and my businesses. And I found that show fascinating, man. They had. I remember they did an episode where Led Zeppelin made a guest appearance. Mm-hmm. I was always kind of pissed that they didn't bring in the Clash and the guys from like the Sex Pistols and stuff. Right. They kind of they opened up the show. I don't know if you did the stunt for this, but that beginning episode, the end of the show, they had an ending song by the New York Dolls, Personality Crisis. And he's playing it so loud that the walls of the show, of the building, come crashing down. And you see Bobby at the end of the show, he's like laying down. He's got his face is filled with like concrete and stuff. And I'm like, this show rocks, man. There's so many different ways that you could have gone with it. So what happened towards that? I mean, why'd they kill it?
So from what I understand, that the season 2 was greenlit, which means it's good to go. But there was internal fighting or internal, problems. I couldn't attest to exactly who it was with, but from what I heard, it was from higher ups that they couldn't get a couple of things together. But yeah, you're absolutely right. There was a lot of very strong opinions. There was a good amount of people that were really in favor of that. They had a great cult following that they were building up, but there was also a portion that was against it. There seemed to be nothing too in the middle about it. But who knows what the second season could have brought along. I was hoping they were going to get into the early days of rap.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, man.
Uh,
You know, Mike, just to touch on that for a second, you know who wrote that show besides Scorsese, I believe. I think Mick Jagger was
Yeah,
involved.
Jagger had a hand on it.
Go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry.
oh, but a buddy of mine's an actor. He's been on the Deuce. Yeah, small role. He was in a day player on the Deuce. He works on Broadway, and he went to a movie screening one time, and Scorsese did like a Q&A afterwards.
Right.
One of the biggest things Scorsese says with every movie he does, when he has to figure out the budget,
Right.
he has to put $1 to $2 million on the side just for music. Like every one of his movies has an amazing soundtrack, and he says, "I know how much money these songs are going to cost.
Right.
I have to budget that in as soon as I get a budget for a movie. I know $2 million is gone just because I want to play 3 Rolling Stones songs or The Who or Van Morris or whoever else I want to play.
Yeah, that's incredible.
I know how much it's going to cost me." And I mean, like you said, he had a great hand in this show. I heard I only read somewhere it was all about money because it had a big cast in it. It had a lot of big names in it too. I mean, who knows? Maybe they realized the show wanted more money. It brought Andrew Dice Clay back in the fold.
That's right.
He was great in it too.
Yep. And Ray Romano.
Romano.
Right.
Guy.
He played the agent. I actually got another buddy of mine who is an investor on the show Gravesend. George, have you ever heard of that show?
A little bit. Yeah, I think I've heard it in passing.
So he's got a lot of those guys that you come across in Blue Bloods and stuff. Dice Clay, Forsyth, Armand DeSante. Guy's name's Dave. I'm going to probably have him on the show the next couple of weeks. We have a lot of guests coming on. And again, it's funny how like all these different names, they come together. Like I see your IMBD, I see Sherpers, I see this guy, I see my friend Dave's show. And like these actors, like they tend to like revolve like in the same circle of movies and TV shows. And it's really, really pretty fascinating, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I've come across that in the stunt business with coordinators who kind of, I don't know, for lack of better wording, like will take care of their friends, you know, if they can, if it fits. Yeah, so there's probably like that. I mean, you look at Scorsese's last movie about the last days of Jimmy Hoffa.
Yeah, The Irishman.
The Irishman, right, which Bobby Cannavale was in.
Yes, that's right.
It's funny that the last times I was working with Bobby, I was reading that book that the movie's based on. It's called I Heard You Paint Houses. Fantastic book. Phenomenal. Blows away the movie. And Bobby's like, it's never going to happen. Because I was asking him, I said, do you think this is going to go into production? He's like, no way. It's never going to happen. A year or so later, it's happening. So you never know. You know, like you said, money could always be one of the big problems in one way or another. But The Irishman put together, you know, an insane cast. All those guys, good friends at one point or another, and maybe they still are. You know, and Scorsese, maybe let me get all my boys together. You know, like it's a nice reunion. It's a great send-off for them. They'll probably never work together again as a group like that. So, yeah, there's something to be said for some loyalty there with your friends.
It's funny that, you know, me and Mike talk about people that we've met throughout the business in Mike's line of work. You know, my encounters throughout, you know, my different jobs and places. I came across De Niro and Joe Pesci at Goldfingers. You remember right. So George is in my fraternity. The guy that got me the job, Mike, was a fraternity brother, Tommy, who we pump his business once in a while on the pod. Yeah, right. 6'7". He looked like baby New Year, Tommy. He's a great guy. He lost a lot of weight. Tommy's doing phenomenal. But he got us a job at Goldfingers. And one night, Pesci and De Niro came in. All sorts of celebrities used to always walk into this place. And the thing that I remember most about those two guys is they cordoned them off in the top corner of Goldfingers on West 28th and 10th Avenue. And you couldn't even get any of these guys. Like Matt Dillon was there that night. So I'm talking with Matt Dillon, who was like doing the role for Singles back then. He's got like this long trench coat and stuff. And he seemed like a cool guy, but I really wanted to meet De Niro and Pesci, who were in The Irishman, like you mentioned. And you couldn't even get any of these guys. It was hysterical. But I thought I mentioned that. But
when you did that was probably just a few years after Goodfellas.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. You're talking, no, not too, Goodfellas was 1990. That was probably like December of 91, if I had to take a guess.
Okay.
January 92, like
all
right around that area.
Nice.
So, but small world, man, small world. So there was a song, I don't know if you remember, when I used to DJ back at Gantry's, that you used to always ask me for, going back to the music business for it. I don't know if you remember the name of it, but hit it, George. You used to ask me for all sorts of songs all the time.
Oh, let's see. That might be, geez, it could be any number one of this. I think I might swing and a miss here. It's not O for Tuna, right?
That was one of them. But it was an old Armin Van Halen song called Witch Doctor.
Witch Doctor.
So
the extended version. Play the 9-minute version.
9-minute version, guys. But there's so many things I want to talk to you about. We have limited time here to talk about, so we can talk about it forever. Me and Mike quickly wanted to get into to Pete Davidson, who was in The King of Staten Island. I don't know if you've traveled in those circles. It seems like you're doing like more action type stuff, more like I guess sitcoms, that type of stuff, like true crime type stuff. Have you come across Pete Davidson or any like the comedic actors?
Comedic. I mean, just from Ray Barone when he was on in Vinyl here, he was pretty funny on set. But he's from a different age than Pete Davidson is,
Yeah.
I was pretty impressed with his movie. I sat down and watched it a couple of weeks ago, The King of Staten Island, and I got to admit, I kind of had a bad opinion of him going into it for whatever reason. But I was really impressed at how he pulled it off. It was pretty decent.
No, I agree. So he's doing a show, a movie about with I guess Joey Ramone.
Okay.
And I was telling Mike off the air very quickly. I guess something to the effect of he's going to portray Joey in a biopic. And I don't know if you've ever read anything about the Ramones, but they're Queens guys. They're from Forest Hills. Okay. I'm sure a lot of people that watch this show or are our age came across them in one shape, form, or another. And, I find it fascinating that Davidson is going to play this guy. And that's an actually pretty interesting story for the music fans out there. I don't know if you're aware of it, but I read Commando, the Johnny Ramone biography, right? Which was the lead guitarist.
Okay.
One guy was like a right-wing guy and one was a left-wing political guy, right? So towards the end of their lives, I guess Johnny stole Joey's girlfriend and made it his wife. So at one point they didn't talk to each other between the politics and the fact that one guy stole the other guy's girlfriend.
Okay.
The song KKK Took Your Baby Away is about Johnny Ramone. And towards the end of his life, he was like a really weird guy. Like he was like one of those guys that had to cross a certain path to get back and forth to the studio every day. He had like, I guess he was on the spectrum on some level. Yeah.
I think they all were.
Yeah. But the biography, the whole thing with Davidson, I found completely interesting. And, my love for punk music, I figured we'd bring it up. And going back to vinyl, I know at some point I was hoping that they go, based on the fact that the show was in the 70s, that they would have talked about the punk rock scene. And, it was a shame that the show ended. I know you guys, you kind of got into it and stuff, in terms of how it ended, but.
Right. No, fortunate because there's so much material there. So much.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. 70s music. Come on. You can go forever on that. Looks like we got to start wrapping it up a little. What do you want to plug, George? You got anything you got? You got anything coming out? You got anything you want?
No, just I know there's a lot of people that can't contain themselves online. I see it there's a Facebook page for the second season of Evil to come out, hoping that it comes out this month or maybe next month. It's been kind of under wraps from the directors, but I think it is next month. So those people that are excited about it, you'll see that. And you'll see Orson LaRoe come back. All right, for those of you that watch that, it's an interesting show, really.
Yeah, it's a real weird, creepy. If you're into X-Files and magic and mysticism and all that, check that show out, man. It's a wild show.
Right. If you thought the first season was intense, season 2 kicks it up a notch.
All right. Chris, what do you got?
Well, we got to cut it short tonight, George. It looks like we're on a time schedule, not by our means, but we appreciate you coming on the show. Number one,
Anytime.
I want to pump Jay Cristiano, Cardinal Financial. We talk about him every week. If you're into the purchase market, refi market, Jay works super quick, super cheap. You give him the referral code 4215. The telephone number is 844-442-7334. Mention me and Mike, the Crack House podcast. Give that code. Jay will take very good care of you. And that's pretty much how I have all today. Check out La Familia in Smithtown. That's a great place to eat. Also Insignia, the steakhouse me and Michael went to a couple weeks ago.
Great food.
And
great food.
Yeah, phenomenal time. And that's pretty much all I got tonight, guys. George, we appreciate you coming on, giving us your time.
You can check me out next week. I'll be on New York City Crime Report with Pat Dixon on Compound Media. Anthony Cumia's network should be on next Thursday at 7. You can take a look at that. I'm on Pat Dixon's podcast this week, New York City Crime Report. Check that out. Make sure check out my buddy Jack at I Can Paint. Guy does great work. Great, always available for commission work. Great stuff. SOF Bad Monkey, Paulie and the boys. Check them out. And we'll see you next week. We love you. Goodbye. Like, subscribe, rate, review. George, thanks for coming on. We'll see you in the Funny Papers.